And good morning, everybody. It's Walter here at the Dutch Mentor. And once again, we're here together on a Monday morning for a chat about leadership. I'm very much honored today to be joined by Allison. We go back a few years, but Allison, why don't you introduce yourself first before we go down memory lane and we'll have a chat about your journey. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Walter, and good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for the invite. Yes, we've known each other quite a while, and I'll let you fill in an original story. But I've been in healthcare for 30 years, actually, this past February, and it's been quite a journey. Started part-time as an inventory control clerk, and worked my way up to the opportunity of being the interim chief operating officer here at University of Utah Health. So took lots of risks, albeit them calculated along the way. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Excellent, very good. Yeah, so Allison and I, of course, we were a few years younger, although we still look phenomenal, right? If I have to say so about ourselves now. So in 2011, right after I got done with my executive MBA, and I had signed up for FACHE 3 years ago because somebody advised me it's really smart to sign up for your American College of Healthcare Executives and go on that 3 year journey after you get your you get settled in order to be able to get your FACHE credentials. So again, to all of the emerging leaders joining us today, both Alice and I took that path. We both successfully gained our FACHE credentials, and it is meaningful. It really is a commitment to learning, growing, and developing your skills, knowledge, and abilities in the management, administration of healthcare in 11 or 12 subject areas. We connected in class. It was funny enough at Northwell. Neither one of us worked there, but it's funny
No,
how we meet and we stay
never say
connected.
never.
Never say never. That's right. You stay connected along the way, and that's where the beauty of LinkedIn and other places that we have a common goal, and that's really deliver the best possible care to our patients. So, with that said, the conversation today we can take it by we'll go down many rabbit holes over here, but I think it is really important for emerging leaders to understand the value of making decisions along your career journey. I have made those. Some of them were very successful, and some of them I still, scratch my head. I would pull my hair, but I have none, so it's a little difficult to do. And I said, did I really make the right choice along the way? So why don't you take us on a journey of your decision-making processes going back 10 plus years, and how you got to where you are today, including making some of those critical decisions.
Sure. Thanks, Walter. So it's never made in isolation, I will say. All of my decisions, there are so many people in my life, personally and professionally, that I rely on. So one big message I was thinking about this over the weekend and get across today to everyone, emerging professional or seasoned professional, is the network. You and I are a perfect example of keeping in touch with folks, building that network. I call them the circles of influence of how we can create opportunities. So that's how much of my career has developed, is kind of using my out loud voice, raising my hand for opportunities, and taking risks, although calculated. So some early in my career, I mean, I worked full time and went to school full time. So I went to school at night and on the weekends. And by the time I had about 10 years experience, I finished both my undergrad and graduate degree. And the honest truth, there's a few folks that know the honest truth, but my catalyst to take the FACHE exam was that I was the president-elect for Healthcare Leaders of New York, and I felt I could not be an appropriate representation without at least attempting to take the test that we all talk about and get that credential. And fortunately, I passed and was able to be certified while being president at Healthcare Leaders of New York. But my career's taken me to different states. I'm in Utah right now. And the catalyst for that was my personal life that brought me most of the way across the country. But I literally walked into the state knowing only my husband and my stepson. So the network that I formed over the many years of my career really helped position me with different opportunities along the way. Other risks that I took were just taking jobs maybe quicker than some had thought one should. So 30 years ago, and longer in your career, you went to one organization and you probably stayed there for a very long time, if not forever. I've never been that type of person. The longest place I've stayed is probably 10 or so years, but in different roles and different pathways along the way. And now today, especially with remote work and just the way the world is evolving, there's opportunities that exist outside of those
Yeah.
circles of tradition that we're used to. So my advice to everyone is to take those risks, take calculated risks, talk to people that you trust, and get differing opinions, and then go with your gut and try new things. Because I think in the past we were looking for healthcare professionals that had one skill set, and perhaps if you're a cardiothoracic surgeon, yes, you need that one skill set. That's really important. But as a hospital administrator or operations executive, if that's what the pathway that you're looking to explore, getting different experiences along the way. I worked in grant work, I worked in the emergency room, I worked in ICUs, I worked in inpatient and outpatient units. I went way off track and worked for Giuliani Partners, the former mayor of New York City, Rudolph Giuliani, his healthcare consulting firm, and did work in India, in Japan, in pharmaceuticals and healthcare safety and security. So it's taking the pathways that then can create a very diverse background as well as diverse thought and opinion, because you're not just going down the same path.
Yeah, I think it is very well stated, by the way, and super exciting. For me, my 5 kids kept me in New York, although my mind has wandered all over the country and all over the world. And for essentially speaking, having been born and raised in Europe, it comes with its own flavor and set of experiences. I find it to be exceptionally important that no road to the top is traveled in a straight line. I think there's
Never.
so much to be learned from the left hand turn, the right hand turns, and the two things that I really strongly encourage all of my students in the academy or in the in the emerging leader program is to take these calculated risks that you describe. Right, is the value of taking a lateral position is sometimes far more valuable than always looking up. And it is about having that that understanding that maybe taking something like you did with Giuliani or taking something else that is completely out of the norm as a non-clinical person, there is true value. And the value is, and I explained, your roadmap is a value stream. If you have a big dream, and ultimately speaking, your dream is to be a CEO of a hospital, a healthcare system, or whatever it may be, you
Hmm.
kind of have to help identify those gaps on what is it that I need to do along my journey in order to fill that, to get the most, out of it, experience-wise, develop
Hmm.
these skills, knowledge, and abilities, not by doing it once or twice, but doing it many times to set myself up for success. So for yourself, what was your big dream when we first met 10 years ago, and where are you today, in relation to that, into that big dream?
Sure. Great. A couple thoughts come to mind. So when I started in healthcare part time as an inventory control clerk, my big dream was to be a director. Right. I want, like, a director just seems so great, so sexy,
Yeah.
so amazing. And where I was with my education track at that time, and where I was personally and professionally, I thought, oh, my immediate goal was just to become a director. And a former boss of mine, Christopher O'Connor, who ran who's done many things with his career, but our connection together was working at Greater New York Hospital Association, where he created Nexera, a consulting company, and also led Acuity acute care GPO, since purchased by Premier. He told me at a dinner one time, asking me about my career, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I really want to be a director or a senior director. And he kind of went like this, and he said, Allison, you're aiming too low. I've never ever forgotten that night, that
Yeah.
dinner, and that message. And from that moment forward, why aim too low? Aim wherever you want, right? Wherever your life personally and professionally takes you. And I do say that a career is just one piece of that pie. But if you have desires to impact the world, which I have felt I have had, and still do today, through one patient, one person at a time, then sky's the limit, right? It's you're your
Yeah.
own worst critic. Typically, it's what's in our head more than anything. That talks us in and out of stuff. We take all the advice from people, but then it's us that makes the phone call or submits the application. So I think that was the ultimate at that time. And having moved past that, one of the other big risks when I came to Greater New York was leaving a very good trajectory in healthcare, um, and moving into the consulting space. As a hospital employee, I didn't like consultants at all. I thought it was a waste of money. I thought, pay a bunch of us high performers and we can get to the same result. And then I learned, right, I went to the dark side, and then I learned, well, there is value with bringing in objective, non-emotional subject matter experts to help teams and organizations excel and get to that next level. So having had both kind of traditional hospital experience and clinic experience, as well as the consulting side, I think has given me not a unique, but just a different perspective on how to problem solve. And healthcare has been, right, not for the faint of heart these past few years. And those of us that are still in it and choosing every day when we wake up to come on in or remote in, we have to create the joy in the problem solving that's ahead of us with how we're going to redefine truly, I think, at least in my lifetime, for the first time, really how we're going to deliver healthcare. Telehealth grew in 3 days, 10 years, right?
Yep.
Progressed, and now that's an expectation. So how do we continue to create together what that new experience looks like? And that's with diversity, right? That's with different people, different industries around the table. Earlier in, 10, 20 years ago, folks were being hired into healthcare, out of healthcare, and that was, looked upon in some challenging ways. And now also it's, if you have the right personality, the right phenotype and skill set, however you've obtained that, come to the table, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to create that new delivery system.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a really interesting time that we live in, right? It's a great opportunity today to continue to innovate, be disruptive,
Mhm.
and to I think that to accelerate the growth in healthcare. So go on your journey, and that's one of the things that I talk about with the students is you build an individual development plan, right? So you have to have that big dream and force yourself to think beyond. If you cannot allow others to kind of
Mhm.
challenge you along the way in order to build that out and how do I get from point A to point B to point C, I use a 70-20-10 approach. 70% of it is learning on the job. 20% is always seeking out a good coach, a good mentor. That could be internal, could be external, could be somebody, person like myself or you through the Achi network. And then 10% is more the formal learning of taking classes in classroom. But I think that both the mentorship and in-role learning is so exceptionally important. Tell me a little bit about while you were in certain roles and maybe even started exploring what is next on my list. How did you always find time or make it a priority to continue to learn on the job through getting and gaining experiences?
Yes, I always raise my hand to help, right? So that was a big thing of what if there was a project, if there was an initiative, I might know nothing about it, but that's the way I'm going to learn. And I know what I know, and I know what I don't, and I don't know a lot. And I say that today, 30 years in, there are many things that I don't know. So how do you learn? You learn through the team, you learn through other people, and you learn by actually doing it.
Yep.
So you have to take that risk, and it can be scary to raise your hand. And we're all overworked and we're all exhausted, especially after the last 2.5 years and counting. So how do you kind of dig deeper and get motivated to do that? And for me, it's you, right? Or it's the people that are watching or will watch later. It's the team of 14,000 folks here. That's what keeps me
Yep.
motivated and keeps me going. And the opportunity to be a very small piece of impacting someone's life in a positive way, that's where I get the motivation. But it was a bit of a planned, unplanned pathway of I knew, I wanted to work in perioperative services, the largest moneymaker of most healthcare institutions. I wanted to understand more of the grant work and did that earlier in my career. The ED, nursing units, infection control, just different things that then led to kind of an operational background. Supply chain was also a very large part of my experience, less today than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago, but that experience and that skill set doesn't
Invaluable.
right? So I'm able to walk into situations and either help be the catalyst to help teams figure out how to figure it out, or in the role I've been in for probably the last decade of my career and now most recently to make that final decision. But it's not, again, never in isolation, or at least I hope it is not. I try to operate with that mindset of I don't know everything, and I don't want to know or need to know everything. That's how you trust and empower your teams. And the more you do that, and that example that you set for others of letting go, and even if we make mistakes, and in healthcare that obviously that's pretty risky, but we need to be able to learn. And that's one of the reasons I love an academic medical center setting, because it's a constant think tank of how we can improve and how we can get better.
Yeah, I always enjoyed my time in the academic center as well. There's a little noise on the line for some reason. I apologize for that. I think the key is to think about it is how do I get into those positions, right? By exposing yourself, by raising your hand. The word networking, I think you mentioned it earlier before too. It really even enroll in the position that you're
your current
in the
job.
facility, in your current job. I cannot overstate the value of building a network and having conversations with people. Give us a little insight on how you build your network. How do you approach somebody who has this scary big job that might have information you don't have? And how can you make that connection, a meaningful connection with those types of folks?
A couple different ways. Well, and first, I'm a born and raised New Yorker, so I'm not shy. And I believe in respectful disruption. And again, if you don't ask the question, the answer is always no. So those are words that I live by. Earlier in my career, I wrote letters, right, to CEOs or COOs and asked them for time, when I was a student, to talk to me and give me counsel. I've never asked anyone for a job. Never. And I don't think I ever will. What you do is you create a relationship, a basis for a conversation and a dialogue. Most people want to talk. Most people want to be helpful. And those that don't respond, you don't need to participate with them. So there will be plenty of people that will reach out. My team here, if I answer one more LinkedIn from a student, they might take me hostage. But I feel that is part of my job, is giving back and giving that time. And 15 minutes or 30 minutes, even in today's chaos, we have that to be able to invest. I look at it as an investment in humans and an investment in our future. And the scariness of talking to someone with a C in front of their name or an E or whatever initial it is, we're all human. And we all started somewhere, right? So, our current CEO here, Dan Lundergan at University of Utah Health, started in the laundry room, and he's the CEO. So there are a lot of great stories out there if folks take the time to engage and connect. And I know many myself, but many of my colleagues across the country are more than willing to help and lean in on being honest and transparent and vulnerable, and the mistakes that we've made along the path in our careers or different choices we might make, but helping folks have that confidence to reach out. Again, the worst thing that happens is no one responds, and then you move on.
That's rock solid advice. My father always told me that before you ask, you have a no. So what's the worst thing that can happen is you end up with a no, right? So I think that's really, really solid advice. You have to go out on the limb. You have to.
You do.
Even if you're an introvert, you have to learn to develop extrovert behaviors. If you have any
and then I will say
advice,
you need to follow up, right? So you need to be on time. You need to, make sure you keep the Zoom meeting or the appointment, and you follow up with some kind of, additional exchange. And then you sit in the tuck, right? And then you kind of move on, and you look at continuing to build those circles of influence and enhance and increase that network. But you don't reach out every 2 seconds to someone. But 6 months from now, I'm reading an article, right, that I know you're interested in, a topic you're interested in, Walter. I send it to you, right? Or I ping you on LinkedIn or social media about something. It's that kind of cadence of communication that then enables, when you do have a tougher question or you are looking for a job and you want to create additional referrals, then you have that opportunity to reach out to folks.
Yeah, what did they say? It's 6 degrees of separation. I don't remember who the actor was, but I was told it is about 6 relationships deep is where you most likely your next position comes from. And it is about, you don't need to ask for that. If you put yourself in a position of wanting to learn, to develop, and have these these good conversations with proper follow-ups, that aha moment when they have an open
Mhm.
position, say, hey, listen, I met Allison some time ago, she might just be a perfect fit. That is more likely to happen than to a good recruiter. Now, there's
Right.
one
How
other
did I
item.
come to Utah? Right.
Yeah,
Again, Scott and Lincoln, my husband and my stepson. That's it.
yeah,
Never landed here for a conference. Nothing. Never stepped foot here. And it is not because of me per se. Yes, you have the skill set, you have the resume, you have the credentials to back up what you're looking to do for an organization, but you have to take a risk. And it's my network in New York that knew people in Utah that not in healthcare, in other industries, that was able to connect me. And that's how I connected in with with a networking meeting with a previous CEO and COO a year prior to ever working here.
yeah.
So I was very happy working in New York, and had a great career pathway at Greater New York. But my personal life, the pull was here. And transversing the country gets a little tiring
Yeah.
after a while. I had done that as a consultant for many years, so I was looking to build some additional roots here. But that happened through people that weren't even in the state that introduced me
Yeah.
to other folks.
So one other thing that I talked about earlier is having a good coach and mentor. My mentor happens to live in Utah, and we have really built a phenomenal relationship over the last 12 years. I have not come to visit them, but every time we
You
talk, he
need
tells
to
me, "Come on."
come.
He says, "Well," I said, "Come." I said, "I would love horseback riding, right?" And he has a few horses, and I cannot wait to go out there. My daughter lives in Denver, Colorado, goes biking in Utah, and she was
Right.
talking
I feel
about
the West
maybe
is
moving
calling
out
you.
there.
Right.
I
The
am
West is
certainly.
calling you.
It's in my plan to come out at some point in time. But no great athlete becomes a great athlete without having a great mentor or a great coach. And it is one of those areas. And I saw a disturbing statistic that came out in 2021 when executive leaders were interviewed. 87% of the executive leaders today know and understand the value of leadership development. Only 5% of them took meaningful action. I find as a FACHE, it
Yeah.
is my obligation, my duty
Hmm.
to pay it forward. I spend lots of time coaching, mentoring people for nothing. Now I do it
Hmm.
for my living as well because I really believe in helping our emerging leaders. Talk a little bit about as a closing question. Talk a little bit about your journey and how you used mentors and coaches and the value of those conversations and those relationships, and how did it help you become the leader you are today?
Absolutely. So friends and family are absolutely that informal, and depending on the industry they're in, sometimes formal mentors and coaches. But I would say my original were my professors, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
have long-standing relationships with professors that I had as undergrad and graduate school. Professor Vincent Marr from Iona College comes to mind. He's a lifelong friend. He's become that. But in those initial years, he was pretty tough. And,
Yeah.
he helped me, develop a thicker skin. So did surgeons at Beth Israel Medical Center, the former Beth Israel Medical Center. They helped me as well. Um, but it's really searching out people that you see in meetings, or you see in social media online, that you agree with, their platform, or you don't, right? You have some questions about it, and you want to get different perspectives. So I think it's having both informal and formal, and being a mentor. I've been a mentor for many years. I too, in kind of another lifetime, want to have, right, more of a deeper involvement in coaching and executive training. I also took a certificate at Columbia's Business School in executive coaching, because, as you know, Walter, the philosophy of coaching is the person knows the answer. It's how you can be the catalyst to help pull that out of them. But I have found it invaluable to have both formal and informal mentors. That can be your boss, and it's your colleagues, and it's people that are skip levels to you, right? And also in other industries. So I think it's looking for folks that will challenge you, be honest with you, be vulnerable with you, and be respectful always. But push a little, give you the extra confidence that you might not have yourself, to make that phone call, send that email, or take on that project, or go for that bigger job, or the different job. When I left healthcare, traditional healthcare, from hospital to consulting, people thought I was crazy. From healthcare consulting, supply chain consulting, to go work for Giuliani Partners, people thought I was crazy. To move across the country to Utah as a female executive, people thought I was crazy. Well, I am a little crazy. so who better than me to take those risks on some folks' behalf to show that anything is possible.
Yeah, let me try to. No, I'm sorry for the noise again on the line. It is something I'll have to clear up on my end. Listen, me too. I feel the same way. It is. So somebody asked me why the Dutch mentor versus the Dutch coach. So I think you gave a perfect description of a coach's role is to be the catalyst, to really get the pull out what you already know. I think that our emerging leaders need a little bit more mentorship by using our deep experiences, all including all of the difficulties that we experience along our journey, to help guide them, not to crutch them, not to do it for them, but it is about providing a little deeper insight and help them. But as you then go progress through it, the coaching becomes more important, right? And I think learning for each person to become a phenomenal coach to their team members is equally as important. And that's how the snowball effect kind of like takes place. Well, listen, I think you and I could talk probably for a couple more hours. Maybe we'll do that over
a New Yorker. I can talk all the time.
Maybe we'll do it over a glass of wine when I'm in Utah. I'll promise you this: is that if
you step foot in this state and you do not come see me, I'm going live on LinkedIn or Twitter and calling you out.
There you go. That sounds like a fantastic idea to me. Allison, thank you very much for joining me this morning. You always bring great value to everybody and an inspiration to many, as I see some in the comments over here. I've yet to run into somebody who says, "Oh no." It is always, "Oh yes." So again, don't let that get to your head.
Right, no, not at all.
Thank you.
Not at all.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And I know you're a couple hours behind us, so thank you again for getting up early, get the day started. If you ever need anything, by all means, reach out to me. I welcome everybody to participate next week. It is going to be Adam Weinstein. Will be a different angle, a different twist to talking about leadership and his journey. If you ever want to come on the show,
Adam is a great human. Yep, no Adam.
Yes. So if you want to come join me, just email me at thedutchmentor@gmail.com. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon again. Allison, you're the best.
Great. Thanks, Walter. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.